Hey y'all, welcome back. So today I want to talk to you about how to find good vendors. So there are so many wedding vendors out there. How do you narrow it down and how do you choose one that's right for you? So first things first, I would go ahead and set a budget. So you need to talk to your fiance, your parents, whoever is going to be helping pitch in for this big, wonderful, magical day. You need to sit down and find out a budget. So whether you have $5,000 or $50,000, those are two very different weddings, and you need to figure out what vendors are gonna fit into that budget. So that would be my first thing. My second would be finding a venue. So the location is gonna be one of the biggest factors whenever you're choosing vendors. You don't wanna hire somebody that is in San Antonio if you are having a wedding up here in Dallas. That's gonna be a very expensive travel fee. If you love that vendor and you have known from the get-go that that's who you wanna hire, then do it, that's totally fine. Just keep in mind that you are gonna have a massive travel fee if you are doing that. So finding the venue and finding the location would be step number 2. And then number 3, of course, is gonna be picking a date. So you can't hire a vendor if you don't know the location and the date. Whenever you reach out to someone and you say, hi, I'd like to know more about your services, the number 1 question they're gonna ask you is location and date. Every vendor probably has different pricing depending on the day of the week. So like a Monday through Thursday event is probably gonna be a little bit more affordable, whereas a Friday, Sunday would be somewhere in the middle, and then a Saturday, of course, being the most expensive. So whenever the vendor is asking you for a date, there is a reason they're asking that question. For 1, it's because of price, but for 2, the biggest thing is gonna be availability. So whenever you're booking a vendor, they obviously cannot be in 2 places at once. So you have to tell them what date you're looking at so they can check and make sure that they are available. So whenever you are first starting out researching your vendors, I would tell you to go ahead and pick like the top 3 that are the most important to you. So for me, that was photography, food, I'm a big foodie, and then hair and makeup. Those were 3 things that were just super important to me, and so I wrote them down. And then I went ahead and I contacted vendors saying, hi, this is my venue, this is my date, can we chat more? And then I wrote down what their rate was, but not only their rate, I wrote down what that included. So a lot of times I think people get hung up on price, but you're not asking what that price includes. There is a very big difference between a DJ who is $500 and includes just strictly him playing music, or a DJ who is say $1,500 who includes music, being the MC for the night, doing ceremony and reception music, making all of your announcements, and then dismissing tables, doing maybe lighting or dance floor party lights. Some people have those glow sticks that they do. So make sure you're asking what is included in that price before you just jump to, oh my gosh, they're the more affordable one, I pick them. Okay, great, but then what if they didn't include things that you wanted? And so now you're paying for those separately and it equals more than what you would have paid if you just did the DJ who included a lot more. You know, does that make sense? So make sure whenever you're talking to these vendors and making a list, that you're not only writing down price, but you're writing down what that includes in the price. And then after you have a good list of price and what it includes, I would tell you to write down some reviews. So go to either like Wedding Wire or The Knot or Facebook or Google and read reviews from past clients. So keep in mind that not every review is gonna be amazing. You cannot please 100% of people in your life. That's true no matter what your job is. So if you see 1 or 2 bad reviews, do not let that faze you. Again, no job in the world has 100% of people loving them. You cannot do that in life. Like even as a person, not everyone is gonna love you. It doesn't work that way, that's life. So ignore if they have 1 or 2 bad reviews. But if you're looking and it's like every single review or even every other review is bad or less than 4 stars, that's when I would say, okay, probably go ahead and X that one out. Like that's not very good. So whenever you're hiring someone, I personally was pretty picky and I looked for a 4 or above. If they had less than a 4-star rating, I didn't even consider them. That was just me. Maybe you're different. That's just how I was. So I definitely would look at their reviews, read the reviews in details, and if you see ones that are constantly saying the same thing over and over and over again, ask that vendor about that issue. So say, hey, I noticed on your reviews that everyone said that you were running late on their wedding day. Can we maybe look at adding that into our contract, that if you're late, that we take a fee out of that, you know, like we don't want to pay you the full price if you're constantly running late. Can we maybe add that into our contract? Or consider telling the DJ maybe like 30 minutes earlier than they were really supposed to be there if you know that that's an issue they're gonna have. So just reading the reviews and making sure that everything seems consistent. And if one review seems out of place, just go ahead and chalk that up to error. And then what I would also tell you to do is look at vendor referrals. So say you have your venue. I wholeheartedly believe that vendors work better when they know each other and they've worked together before. I cannot tell you how different of an experience it is when I'm coordinating your wedding and I work with a DJ who I've worked with before versus working with a DJ I've never worked with. It is literally night and day. If it is a DJ I've never worked with, I have to be on top of them every 2 minutes, making sure they know the process, they know the procedure, making sure they're not gonna make an announcement before I'm ready. I have had so many DJs think that they are amazing and they don't need to listen to a coordinator, and they make an announcement and it's like, hey, first dance for the bride and groom. And I'm like, I didn't tell you to make that announcement because the groom's in the bathroom. How would you feel if your DJ said, and now for our first dance, and the bride's standing there on the floor looking around because the groom's in the bathroom? That's pretty embarrassing. So if you pick a DJ that I've worked with before, we know each other, he knows that I'm gonna come to him and say, hey, we're ready. Everyone's in place. Go ahead and make that announcement. And it goes so much better. The groom's in place, bride's in place, everyone knows what's happening. It is wonderful. One of the biggest things I hate too is whenever the DJ like announces, okay, now time for cake cutting, and the bride and groom walk over there and they cut the cake and the photographer misses the whole thing because they were not set up. That's something to think about. So your coordinator would go to the photographer and say, hey guys, we're cutting the cake in 5 minutes. That way the photographer can get their lights, their angles, everything set up appropriately, so that way they're ready to capture that special moment. If the DJ announces it before anyone has told them, by the time they set up their lights, you're already done. So that's a big no-no. So again, if you could please pick vendors who we refer you to, I cannot tell you how big of a difference it will make on your wedding day. Not only us referring you, but maybe even the DJ referring you or the photographer referring you. So whenever you hire your first vendor, ask them, say, hey, who are your favorite people to work with? Let me know. You don't have to just take the venue's preferred vendor list. Ask the photographer, ask the DJ, who do you love working with? And just pick people who maybe have worked together at least a couple of times. It really is gonna make a world of difference. And I'm not exaggerating. I know I'm saying that a lot, but I promise you, it changes everything. And then I definitely would also recommend reading contracts. So your venue might have a contract that says that every vendor has to have a general liability insurance policy. So we don't, ours is the bartending and the catering, but a lot of venues do require every single vendor that comes into their building to have insurance. So if you are booked with a venue that requires that, obviously you cannot hire a DJ or a photographer that doesn't cover or have general liability insurance that would cover them. So making sure that you read your contract and hiring vendors who meet that contract. So that way you don't get in trouble, so that way the vendors don't get in trouble, and everyone can go about it easy peasy. And then I would definitely recommend talking to past clients of those vendors. So not only reading reviews, but asking that vendor and saying, hey, can I have the contact information for 2 or 3 of your past clients? Can I talk to them and ask questions? And then any good vendor is gonna tell you yes and allow you to talk to those people. And then finally, I would tell you to set an in-person meeting with that vendor. Anything is easy to say over email or over phone. It's a lot harder to lie to somebody in person. So whenever you meet with that person and you're asking them these questions, be looking to see, is this someone that I connect with? Is this someone that I trust? How is like their attitude towards you? You know, is the vendor acting like your wedding's no big deal to them, that like, oh my gosh, I do this all the time, like, oh, you know, like, are they treating you kind of like another penny in their bucket? Or are they treating you like, oh my gosh, guys, like, tell me about your wedding, tell me what you're thinking, what would you want me to do? Like, how is the vendor treating you during that meeting? That to me is gonna be a big tell. So if they seem invested and they seem like they actually want to be a part of your wedding and they're excited for you, to me, that makes a great vendor. A great vendor is not someone who just shows up and does their job and goes home. A great vendor is someone who does their job but also cares about you, because if anything goes wrong or if anything needs to be adjusted or fixed, if they honestly care about you and they care about your wedding, they're going to do what it takes to make it great. And that makes a great vendor, somebody who will go above and beyond to fix anything that happens. So read reviews, talk to past clients, ask for referrals from everyone you can. Referrals are where it's at. And then meet face-to-face and go with your gut. And then don't always go by price. Make sure that you are comparing what that price includes to other prices and what those don't include. So thank you so much for watching. I really hope this helped y'all out, and stay safe out there. Bye.